So, one of the first chapters is grace-filled parenting. Will you explain that a little bit?
I think a lot of people might have if you just said grace-filled parenting, they might define that differently, but I'll try to explain what I mean by that. It's trying to strike a healthy balance in our own hearts and minds between the call on our lives to obey the Lord and our children's call to obey their parents in the Lord. And on the other side, a recognition that we're all sinners who need God's grace. And those of us that are His are so thankful we received that grace and mercy that we didn't deserve. So you have these two things that can be in tension sometimes. Depending on your background, you may struggle to be more focused on law and obedience, or you may struggle with being all about grace and mercy and not requiring obedience. But we're actually called to be like our Heavenly Father in this, being full of mercy and grace and yet requiring obedience. So both things at once. So just as our standing before our Father is not based on our performance, but on Christ's work, because we could never stand before God based on our merits, we need to remember that our children are natural born sinners and are going to struggle with sin. And our relationship with them can't be based on their performance. Just like we've been forgiven a huge debt, we need to respond to our children as fellow sinners who understand that struggle to obey God in everything, that it's hard and that we need the Lord to do that. Just like our children, we often put our own enjoyment or short-term pleasure ahead of what those in authority over us, even our Heavenly Father, has asked us to do. And our children are younger. They're less mature, less practiced in self-control and obedience, and less able with experience to utilize the means of grace to flee sin than we as adults would be. So surely we should respond with grace to our children's ongoing struggle with sin. I think it can be really easy when our children, we're really tired and we're trying to get a lot of necessary things done, and our children disobey or sin against us. We can feel like it's a personal thing. This is, I shouldn't be treated this way. And I mean, big picture, yes, we shouldn't be, but we shouldn't be surprised that our children struggle with selfishness and sin and lacking self-control. And so we need to call them to obedience and hold the line, have a bar, a standard, but we need to respond with compassionate grace, saying, oh, it's so hard to obey, isn't it? And, come alongside and point them to Christ.